Want to be happy? Build a life, not just a business. Hey, it's Carmichael, and this channel was created to help you overcome the #1 challenge that is holding you back, a lack of belief in yourself. You watch these videos because you know you've got something more inside you too. You have Michael Jordan level talent at something. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn the 7 rich people habits that you need to try. Enjoy. Okay, let's kick it off with habit number 1. Have a vision with Montañez.
There isn't anything that you can't accomplish if you have vision. You see, when I started with Frito-Lay in 1976, I didn't have a whole lot of going for me. I had no education, was told I would never be anything, but I had one thing, I had vision. And this is what vision did for me. When others saw what I was, vision saw what I would become. The very thing that disqualified me, vision used to qualify me.
Habit number 2, value what you do.
I appreciated the job. I valued it. I liked and appreciated the responsibility and the consequences of it. And at any given moment, if I wanted to stop, I could have made it stop, and I didn't. So loved is a funny word because obviously when you know some of the things I had to go through at the time, and some of the press and some of the testimony and certain circumstances and the pressure, and you can't say, gosh, I loved every moment of it. But I always appreciated it, and the weight of responsibility I valued. Because we were always in the arena. Mm-hmm. I could always have stepped out and made myself an observer. But there's something about being in the arena and engaging in that thing, and gosh, I wouldn't have traded any set of experiences for the ones I had.
Habit number 3, just do it with Jack Dorsey.
Just do it. A lot of time is spent thinking about something.
Oh, yeah.
And talking about it.
Yeah.
But when you actually get something down, either on paper or in code, mm-hmm. or in front of someone, mm-hmm. that's when things start happening. Mm-hmm. And you're going to make a lot of mistakes. Mm-hmm. The important thing is that you make decisions and you keep moving forward. Mm-hmm. But you have to get it out there. You have to start, and you have to be brave enough to take the criticism. Mm-hmm. I always go back to the punk movement of the 70s. Mm-hmm. People would get out, they'd be on the street,
because you were a teenager back then.
Yeah, and well, and they would be learning in front of people. They get out on the street, and it's the first time with a guitar. Yeah. And they're learning how to play, and they're getting better and better and better. Yeah. And I think that's really important to just get it down, do it.
Just do it.
Edit.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Habit number 4, be empathetic with John Paul DeJoria.
How many years in foster care?
Actually, 4.5 years. Yeah, my mom was very, very ill, and we were very young, my brother and I. So from about 5 years old to 9.5 years old in foster care. We'd see our mom on the weekends, but during the week, it wasn't like it is today. She had to work to support us, and there was no one to take care of us.
Really?
So Monday through Friday, we were in foster care, and then on the weekends, we were with our mom.
Do you think being in foster care gave you the tools to be a successful entrepreneur?
I don't think being in foster care gave me the tools to be an entrepreneur, a successful one. I think what it gave me was an understanding about other people's lives and understanding where they're coming from. Especially the other kids who were in foster care with us didn't really have a loving mom like we did.
They didn't get to see her on the weekends.
No, they couldn't see her on the weekends either. And a lot of them, when they got out of foster care, had no place to go. they stop, supporting them when they turn 18 or graduate from high school. They had no place to go. So I learned to be very empathetic about others on this planet that need that helping hand. And I think that was very beneficial when I finally made it financially to be able to look at the right things to invest money into to help others out, whether it's the homeless or whether it's job programs in LA. In Texas, we overcame a homeless problem there that the world's going to learn from.
Wow.
We got a piece of land. We all contributed. This is we the people, not the city, okay? We all contributed. We built 240 little houses, all for homeless people. Now, who gets a priority going in? If you're without a shelter for a year or disabled, you're our first priority coming in. You have a home. We have organic gardens there. We have metal shop, wood shop, craft shop, theater. We have everything you could ever imagine there, right? So they could work. They could make money while they're there and have a safe place of life to clean their lives up. It's worked out so well that many of our volunteers there are very successful financial people, but moved there for 1 year in a trailer on our properties, little houses, to let their kids grow up showing how to help out one another. Oh, it's amazing.
Habit number 5, have core values with Robin Sharma.
You said that everybody should have core values. What are some of your most deeply cherished core values?
Service above self. In other words, contribution, impact, service. Number 2, family. I mean, if I could be a tenth of the human being my 2 children are, I'd be amazing. Family, I've worked very hard, but I've really worked hard on my family too. Even trying to be a great son, a great brother, all those things. Because we all know, to get to the last day of your life and say, I made a lot of money and I got a lot of likes and I sold a lot of books and I impacted a lot of people, and your own family never got to know you, that's heartbreak. Third value, I'm an aesthete, the French word, lover of beauty. That's why I love Los Angeles. Like, we were coming over here and it's like, there's flowers, it's whatever time of the year is, there flowers everywhere, So I love beauty and art and food and people and sunsets, and that's why I love Rome so much. Now, that fourth value would be vitality. I really do believe that one of the keys to legendary is longevity. I mean, I want to live till 177. I want to, right? I mean, I'm biohacking and I'm resting and I'm doing the 2 massage protocol and everything possible so I can be rocking my craft and serving as many people as possible when I'm into, one of the things I'd say is you never want to let an old person anywhere near the inside of your body, right? And we could get into epigenetics and the fact that we have a chronological age and a biological age, but vitality is important. And then I think the final core value is lifestyle. We can serve the world, and that's very important, I know, to both of us. But life is ultimately a really short ride. And so I want to really be around only people. I mean, I am focused. I only want people in my orbit that bring me joy or fuel my joy. I only want to do the pursuits in my business and career and life that bring me joy. And I only go to places where I feel joy.
Habit number 6, work with purpose with Indra Nooyi.
As millennials have come into the workforce in large numbers, their expectations of companies have changed. They no longer look at it as sort of a paycheck, but they look at it as, how can I go to work and make a difference in society? So the notion of purpose is becoming a much bigger factor. The big difference is that in the past, purpose used to be some sort of a corporate social responsibility program. And typically those programs were good, people liked them, but they were at the whim or fancy of the CEO who was there. So if the CEO retired, that program got cut. So we had to weave purpose into the core business model of the company. How do you make sure that the sense of purpose can only be accomplished if you make profits? And the only way to make profits is through purpose. And that's why we use the term performance with purpose, linking both together. And I think that's what's excited millennials in particular, and what's excited the boomers to even stay longer in the workforce, because they actually feel they're contributing to the future of society as opposed to walking in, picking a paycheck and leaving.
And habit number 7, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is have heroes with Mark Zuckerberg.
There are probably a lot of people who can run Microsoft and do a reasonable job. When I was growing up, Bill Gates was my hero.
Oh, come on.
Yes.
He's like Darth Vader. He's not Luke Skywalker.
No.
He's the bad guy.
No, he is not. Bill Gates ran one of the most mission-driven companies that I can think of, right? And right now I think Microsoft, their mission is less focused than it used to be. But when I was thinking about what I wanted to be when I grew up, Microsoft I thought had a great mission. Put a computer on every desktop and in every office, right? Or maybe it was every desktop in every home. There are companies that define themselves by a way of doing things, right? There's like the HP way that I was talking about, and there are companies that define themselves by making a concrete change in the world. And Microsoft did that, and I have a huge amount of respect for him for doing that. And he pushed them, and it was an incredibly inspiring company during the time that he was doing that. I think that they still are doing a lot of things, but I think that they've lost some of the focus. And I don't know. I think he's like one of the greatest visionaries that our industry has ever had.
You are capable of more. I just want to tell you, to remind you that you are capable of more. That this struggle that's in front of you right now, that seems all-encompassing and impossible to overcome, it's not your max. You can handle it. Because if this is your max, then you don't grow. And you don't become the person that you know you're capable of becoming. This video will help. So the most pain I went through was when I was on my tour last year and I broke my neck. I broke my neck, I fainted and hit my head on the wall and broke my neck in 2 spots. I compressed my spine. I had a concussion, which I've never had in my life before. And they put me in a neck brace. They put me in these, and I wore this one for 50 days or so, and this one for 10 or something like that. It was 60 days of wearing something like this and only being able to take it off for 10 minutes a day. That's it. So I had to sleep in this, I had to shower in this, I had to do my speaking gigs in this, and you can see, I don't know if you can see, there's duct tape on here because this one was more comfortable than this one. And so I really didn't want to break this one, but just from use, right? From having it on all day long, eventually it broke, and my wife taped it up and she wrote here, "I love you, get well soon, love Nina," kind of like a cast. Anyway, this is the most painful thing that I had to go through. And the day I broke my neck, I was supposed to be doing my speaking gig in Colorado, and we had to cancel that because obviously I can't do it while I'm in the hospital. But then came a really important time. What do I do next? I don't know how long a concussion lasts. I don't know how I'm gonna deal with the pain. I haven't really broken a bone in my body before, let alone 2 in my neck. I didn't know how safe it was to travel, still do my speaking gigs. And the advice was rest and go home. You can't get on a plane because of the compression, but just drive home. Just rest and go home. And my agent wanted me to do it. The doctors wanted me to do it. I'm not gonna go home. I don't want to go home. This is my chance to show myself what I'm made of. This is my chance to see what I can do. Let me at least try. Let me at least try. And it's very rare that we actually get pushed to our limits, like our actual limits. You're pushed to your physical limits and you can't do anything more. And so my initial thought was, well, forget that. Let's just, everybody who was supposed to come, let's just do something tomorrow. Look, this is what I was thinking. Let's do something tomorrow in our Airbnb and just have them come over, and I'll lie down on the couch or the bed and they can ask me questions. I'm here to give value, guys. I'm here to help. Let's go. Helping entrepreneurs is going to be healing for me. And the doctor's like, yeah, you can't do that. You got a concussion. You can't even think clearly or properly. That's never going to happen. So I had to refund everybody in Colorado. And my next stop was Kansas City. And we drove to Kansas City, not too far away. And I was still feeling the massive pain from the neck, but still the concussion. I hadn't recovered from my concussion, and I didn't know how long it was going to last. And I made a video for the people who bought tickets to Kansas City, canceling on them. And what I wanted to do was say, hey, I'm here anyway. I'll give you your money back. Come to the hotel, and I'll still talk to you for as long as I can go. And it was the morning, the day before in the morning. And I was making a video, and I thought, I couldn't even finish making the video. I started getting dizzy halfway through the video, and so I paused it, and I thought, okay, we should just cancel this. It's like I can't even get through 2 minutes of making a video. And so I tried again at night, and I got through the video, and I said, you know what? I don't know how long I'm going to be able to last tomorrow. I already booked the hotel. You know, it's non-refundable for me. You guys already booked your tickets. You booked the time off in your calendar. I'm going to refund you the money because I'm not going to be able to go for 4 hours like I've been doing in each city, but I'll go for as long as I can. If you want to show up, and I'll try to help. And I went for an hour and a half, and it was the greatest hour and a half, one of the greatest hour and a halves of my life. And my wife had to then pull me off after an hour and a half because I was starting to get, I didn't even notice it, but I was starting to get, woozy on stage. And it was great. I was so pumped because this was, I'm done. I've never been pulled off a stage before. And here I was at my max. And I love the idea of pushing through the pain. Obviously be healthy. Obviously don't be stupid. But a lot of times we pull ourselves back way too soon. We don't allow ourselves to actually test what we're made of, to see how far we could actually go. And so I kept these thanks to my friend Mark Drager. I don't collect things. I don't have souvenirs of stuff, but he said, you need to save them as a souvenir of what happened, as a memento. I'm like, all right, whatever, I'll keep it. And I look at this, I'm like, I'm crazy. I did that 60 days in this and kept going on tour, and we still did 10 more cities. And I sat at the front of these stages sitting down because I couldn't stand properly. And I had like 2 or 3 pillows behind me and an ice pack over my right shoulder the whole time, and still spoke for 3 to 4 hours every day, right? I still made videos. You can go back on my channel and you'll see me wearing this with like this giant scab or scar on my head because this is where I hit my head on the wall. It's crazy. This is a reminder of what I'm capable of. That whatever max I feel like I'm facing right now is not my max. And I think you're capable of more as well.
I think you'll learn more about yourself if you do it that way. I bought my first stock when I was 11. I was at Rose Hill at the time, and I bought 3 shares of City Service Preferred at 38, and it went down to 27, which is something I still remember, even though I was 11 at the time. And then it went up to 40, and I sold it. I made $5 on my 3 shares after commissions, and then it went to 200 and something. So, I probably remember that a little better than if I'd been doing it on paper. And I fooled around doing a lot of things between about age 11 and 19 in the stock market. I did charts, I did all kinds of technical analysis, I read every book I could get on the subject, and I didn't do that well. I didn't do terrible, but I was really just floundering around. But that meant by the age of 19, when I read Ben Graham's book, I was at the University of Nebraska in Lincoln, I went and bought this book called The Intelligent Investor, just come out, and it had an enormous impact on me. Now, if I hadn't done, in the previous 8 years, if I hadn't been all over the lot, I'm not so sure that book would have had the same impact on me. I mean, by that time, I was prepared to read Ben Graham's book, which changed my life financially in an incredible way. I mean, I wouldn't be up here today if I hadn't read that book. But yeah, part of life is getting prepared so that when something does happen that's significant, you can grasp the significance of it and know what to do with it. And I would say that first 8 years of fooling around, even though it produced nothing financially to speak of, produced a lot in terms of getting my mind prepared for when I really did read something that made sense. And so I was ready to accept it. And I actually went back and went to Columbia to study under Graham, and because of reading that book, and all kinds of things flowed out of it.
You are one decision away from changing your life. And you have to accept that. You're one new meeting, one new relationship, one new contact, one new action, one new decision away from shifting your life from where it is right now to a totally different place. So what's the decision? You already know. I could go backstage now. There's something you've been hesitating on. There's a contact you need to make, isn't there? There's a job you need to quit. There's a relationship you need to engage in. Maybe there's a relationship you need to leave. I don't know what it is, but I know there's a decision that you need to make to take you to the next level, just like I know that's true for me. Because decisions shape our destiny when they're backed up by some massive ass action. Okay, but you can't take the action if you don't decide. Everyone say yes. People avoid being desperate. Think of the fact they come here tonight and they're down. They're not where they want to be financially. Their relationships aren't what they want. Maybe they're in a desperate place, and you might think that's a negative thing. But when you're in a desperate place, you take the best actions. Desperation is a great place to be. Those of you that are achieving, one of the reasons the achievement is slowed down is you've allowed yourself to feel less desperate. When you were broke and starting your business, or when you were brand new in your relationship and you were desperate to get her to love you or desperate to get him to love you, you took massive big action. How many of you are moms in the room? Raise your hand. You moms, if you woke up tomorrow morning and your baby wasn't in their bed, would you be desperate right away, yes or no? Big time desperation. You wouldn't be thinking about what you need to do. You'd be acting, wouldn't you? You'd immediately make the decision. You'd take massive action. You'd search the house. You'd go into the street. Would you worry if your makeup was on right? How you looked, what people thought about you? You wouldn't, would you? Have to have the perfect plan to go find your baby that's missing. You wouldn't need any of that because you were desperate. So when you remove desperation, all this bullshit creeps into your life where you think you have to have the perfect plan and look the perfect way and have the perfect thoughts and be all zen and perfect. What you need is to be desperate. What you need is to get after it. And I want you to get desperate to make that decision. Why? Because our obsessions become our possessions. What you obsess about most regularly, you will eventually possess in your life. The challenge for most people, sisters and brothers, is that we obsess on the things we're fearful of, what we don't have, what we're worried about. And then we end up possessing those things over and over again, rather than programming ourselves to become obsessed with what we want, what our dreams are, what we believe we deserve. When we become obsessed about those things, long term, we end up possessing those things. Can I get an amen for that? Yes? Yeah, most of us don't replace the external parts of our lives because those things happen naturally without thought. The external results of our life, in order to replace ourselves with the next best version, requires intention, requires obsession, requires desperation. Everyone with me on that, say yes. So it's not unnatural to change. Your friends that think you're crazy to have started your business or come to a seminar or spend money you don't have, they're the crazy ones. It's unnatural to be the same person you are right now next year. For all of you in here, the 35-year-old you should be gone next year forever, and there should be a brand new, better 36-year-old.
Started the agency with 45 people that didn't work in the industry. I knew nothing about the industry. I read nothing about the industry, so I started VaynerMedia. I built a creative shop that I put media in the name. I had both media and creative under one roof and had no idea that it was unique. So we were doing all these unusual things. What it led to is a very large agency that has not played by the industry rules, but has driven business results for its clients. So now we do have 900 people globally. We do have the US, LA and New York offices and London and opening up Singapore, and very frankly, feel very confident we're about to get a big scope for the World Cup in Qatar, and that means Middle East and looking at, South America. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I think because of some of the awards we're winning this week, just I'm feeling from the creative class here a little bit of more of a, okay, you can be in the club, and I'm laughing. I'm like, I don't want to be in the club. I don't mind to be in the club, but there's only one club I want to be in, which is, wouldn't you want to be a creative that in real life, when you hang out with your friends, people know what you're talking about? Like, how many more times do people here want to spend 20 years of their life making TVC that when they talk about it and they're like, the IBM spot, and their friends and relatives are like, I have no idea what you're talking about. And if they do, it's because they tried really hard to find it, right? I think that people want to, I think if you're creative, I think you want it to be seen. I just don't know what else to say. And I think, what Mike and Adam will tell you if you decide to yap with them after this is, after having careers in fancy places doing fancy stuff, it's fun to make. Think about all the ideas that you guys have had that will never see the day of life. Like, you guys are all 12 years away, 6 years away, 4 years away from being the final decision maker to actually see something made. Right now, you're politicking and strategizing on how to convince the two people above you to actually make the thing you believe in. You're not in the creative industry, you're in the internal politicking industry. That's why volume will set this industry free. We have interns from day one in ad school being able to see their thoughts in market from the biggest brands in the world. Literally, we have literally interns already in our company that have had more pieces of content seen by humans than some of the people here. That's real. That's going to play out, I hope, for all of you. I want you to be in a place where you get to be creative for real instead of working at a bank and fighting for a half-pregnant version of your idea to see the world. And that's why so many of you have to do things on the side, because you can't scratch your itch.
Speaking of learning from lessons, you've been around a lot of incredible entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
And I know you did a reality show with Richard Branson. This is 10, 12 years ago, you said?
Yes.
What was that like, and what's been a big lesson you've learned from him? And what was the show, and what did you learn?
Yeah, the show was called The Rebel Billionaire, and it was the Apprentice version, Richard Branson's version of that. They were looking for 16 entrepreneurs, so I'm like, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to do this, and I really wanted to meet Richard. I sort of had set intentions out there that I was going to manifest him becoming a friend in my life. So when I heard about the show, I was like, oh, this is interesting. This might be how this happens. So I applied for it, and it was wild. So,
and how big was Spanx at the time? Was it really well known? Was it like just kind of?
It was pretty. I mean, it was 4 years in. It was doing great.
Yeah, multiple seven figures in sales.
Yeah, my lawyers begged me not to do it. They're like, "What are you doing? You own this company. You're going to do a reality show." I was like, "I just want to know Richard. I just feel like this is a chance." So, yeah, and all the business challenges took place around the world in different cities. And instead of, if you didn't win the business challenge, going into a boardroom to get fired, you had to do a crazy stunt, like a world record breaking stunt, because Richard is obviously like a huge adrenaline junkie guy. So in addition to being an amazing entrepreneur. And the very first day of filming, I had to climb the side of a hot air balloon at 9,000 feet in the air on a dangling rope ladder and have tea, climb to the top and have tea on top of the balloon with Richard.
It's insane.
It's insane.
So what did you guys talk about on the top of it?
Oh my God, I talked about like, how do we get down? And that's when he said, you climb back down. I was like,
crazy.
What? I didn't think about that. It was so scary.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so it took me 48 minutes to climb to the top. It's at the height of a 17-story building, and the dangling rope ladder was just like hanging out into the abyss of nothingness. It wasn't anchored to anything. So I'm like climbing it. And
there's cameras up there?
That was the first day of filming. So 2 months later, God. I know.
There's cameras up there?
Yes. I mean, helicopters
right
circling.
I have to watch this.
I had to do all these crazy stunts. The next stunt I had to do is I had to jump off the side of the Victoria Falls Gorge in Africa with a bungee cord attached to me. No. And my guy on my team was dangling on a wire on a crane 10 feet out from the cliff, and each person had to come up and stand there, and you couldn't run and jump, and you had to stand still and jump. And if he caught you, you were okay, and they'd put you back on the cliff. And if not, you fell 385 feet on a bungee cord. And so I am beyond terrified of heights. It's like I'm so afraid of heights. I cry on airplanes still during takeoff a lot of times.
Oh my gosh.
And I was one of the only people to make the jump. Richard didn't make the jump. All these other guys that were like amazing athletes didn't make the jump. And I like to talk about this because I always talk about aiming high and the importance of aiming high in life. And then I think all of us, we don't aim high enough. And so watch where you're aiming. And that's saying, if you shoot for the moon, if you miss, you're at least with the stars.
Yeah.
And afterwards, everyone was like, Sarah, how did you make that jump? You're literally like the only contestant, and look at you. I said, well, I was aimed at the pulley 6 feet above his head. Where were you aiming? And I didn't even look at him. I aimed 6 feet above his head, and I landed at his waist, and he caught me. And everybody else was aiming at his face and landed at his feet and missed.
Amazing.
So it was like a really just poignant example of the importance of aiming high.
First enemy we all have is doubt. We doubt whether or not we're capable. We doubt whether or not we're worthy. We doubt whether or not we'll succeed. We doubt whether or not we even deserve it. And it's so unfortunate because I think doubt is one of the greatest enemies of our lives. And it's so easy to overcome, but most people won't practice the discipline of overcoming it, which is weird, right? They say, oh, I'm so doubtful. And they stop. And it's like, if you have any negative recurring emotion in your life, doesn't maturity require you to face it and say, hey, how do I fix this? You know, if you're always doubtful, you can't just wander around saying, oh, I'm so doubtful, like some kind of victim. That's not fair to the humanity you've been given, that real power of free will that says, hey, you can direct your consciousness. That's why you have this big prefrontal cortex. Other animals can't. We can. So handle it. If you've been plagued with doubt your whole life, then face it. Stop running from it. I know that sounds hard to say to people, but I had the same story. I was so doubtful that people would care about what I say. I was so doubtful that people would want to read my books or listen to me at all. I was so doubtful that I could chase my own dreams. And I realized, for what reason am I doubtful? Because of past failures in this space? No, I'm trying something new. Because people told me I might not be able to do it. So what makes them an expert on my capabilities and my potentialities? I thought, well, why am I so doubtful? We're doubtful because the germ of fear spread in our body because somebody planted it there one time, or we cultivate it with our own thoughts. And at some point, maturity and consciousness says, if doubt has been plaguing you, let's have a look at it. And let's realize, well, how do you banish it? Well, every single thing that we know from spirituality, from philosophy, from the great writers and the great texts of the human culture has all revealed one thing. Where there is doubt, grant me faith. That we have to have faith. And faith does not mean the absence of doubt. Matter of fact, the very definition of faith relies that doubt is still there, right? You can't have faith unless there's some part of you that says, well, I'm going to go anyway, despite the doubt. So I'm not saying we have to get rid of doubt forever and handle it. I'm saying doubt should never prevent you from advancing when you feel like advancing. That in your own mind, you must say, okay, I must trust in my abilities. I must trust that I will figure it out. I must trust that I can build it. I must trust that I can get some help and progress even though the doubt might be there. Look, the hero is a hero because the hero does it anyway, right? Even though the hero's terrified and risking it all, goes anyway. And we're all heroes in some way. We can all be courageous. But I also think, you know what? Society overblows courage. Society says, you know, courage has to be some big, magnificent act. But it's not. I mean, courage in this world anymore is just having the belief in yourself and having the ability to genuinely express who you are. If you're doubting yourself, the only way through is to give yourself more faith and take more action. And with more faith and more action comes more competence. With more competence comes more confidence. In psychology, they call it the competence-confidence loop, right? The more you learn and try, the more you master and develop. So go out there, even with that, yes, let the doubt be there, but do it anyway.
You will find true success and happiness if you have only one goal. There really is only one, and that is this: to fulfill the highest, most truthful expression of yourself as a human being. You want to max out your humanity by using your energy to lift yourself up, your family, and the people around you. Theologian Howard Thurman said it best. He said, don't ask yourself what the world needs. Ask yourself what makes you come alive, and then go do that. Because what the world needs is people who have come alive. The world needs people like Michael Stolzenberg from Fort Lauderdale. When Michael was just 8 years old, Michael nearly died from a bacterial infection that cost him both of his hands and both of his feet. And in an instant, this vibrant little boy became a quadruple amputee, and his life was changed forever. But in losing who he once was, Michael discovered who he wanted to be. He refused to sit in that wheelchair all day and feel sorry for himself. So with prosthetics, he learned to walk and run and play again. He joined his middle school lacrosse team. And last month, when he learned that so many victims of the Boston Marathon bombing would become new amputees, Michael decided to banish that darkness with light. Michael and his brother Harris created MikeysRun.com to raise $1 million for other amputees by the time Harris runs the 2014 Boston Marathon. More than 1,000 miles away from here, these two young brothers are bringing people together to support this Boston community the way their community came together to support Michael. And when this 13-year-old man was asked about his fellow amputees, he said this: first, they will be sad. They're losing something they will never get back. And that's scary. I was scared. But they'll be okay. They just don't know that yet. We might not always know it. We might not always see it or hear it on the news or even feel it in our daily lives. But I have faith that no matter what, class of 2013, you will be okay. And you will make sure our country is okay. I have faith because of that 9-year-old girl who went out and collected the change. I have faith because of David and Francine Wheeler. I have faith because of Michael and Harris Stolzenberg. And I have faith because of you, the network of angels sitting here today. One of them, Khadijah Williams, who came to Harvard 4 years ago. Khadijah had attended 12 schools in 12 years, living out of garbage bags amongst pimps and prostitutes and drug dealers, homeless, going into department stores, Walmart in the morning to bathe herself so that she wouldn't smell in front of her classmates. And today she graduates as a member of the Harvard class of 2013.
The other thing you should do if you're not very industrious is discipline yourself. And so what do you do with that? Eat 3 times a day at regular meal times. That's a good thing to practice because that starts to put some stability into your life. Get up at the same time. I would highly recommend all those young people out there who are listening, like, you want to get a jump on life, get the hell out of bed in the morning. You know, as I've got older, I've got up earlier and earlier. Now that's partly because you don't need as much sleep, but it's also partly because I've got more and more disciplined. Like, get up early in the morning and get your things done. Man, learn to get up at 6 in the morning and you'll be one deadly creature, especially if you can get to work. You'll have half your damn day done by the time other people haul their sorry asses out of bed. And so that's a massive, massive advantage. Look, Warren Farrell, not the comedian, Warren Farrell, the author, he outlined data in Why Men Earn More, which is a book I would recommend, by the way, showing that if you work 13% longer hours, you make 40% more money. It's non-linear. So you think, why is that? Well, imagine you had 10 employees and one of them works an extra 10%. It's not much. Well, how often is that person going to be promoted, assuming you have a clue as a boss? It's like you're going to look at the 10 people and you're going to think, oh, that guy's always here like 45 minutes early. It's like, why don't we give him the promotion? Obviously, right? So these small edges that you can manage like that, work an extra 10%, or extra 13%, have non-proportional payoffs. That's part of the Pareto distribution. So get your sleep cycle organized so you get up in the morning. Learn how to do it. No excuses. I'm too tired in the morning. I don't like mornings. Who cares? That's not relevant. It's like discipline yourself so you can manage it. Schedule your meals because that's a good disciplinary routine. And then learn to use a calendar, like Google Calendar. Many of you out there do not use a calendar. Okay, a calendar is not a prison and it's not a tyrant. Not if you use it properly. A calendar keeps anxiety at bay. It makes sure that you do what you need to do, which is important because otherwise you fall behind. But if you use it properly, it also helps you plan what you want to do. So I could say, well, lay out your damn calendar and design the days you would like to have. That's what your calendar is for. So you can put in all sorts of things in there you want to do and that would be good for you. And that's a really good way to start being more industrious. Make a plan. You need a plan for 3 years. You need a plan for the next year. You need a plan for the next 6 months. You need a plan for the next 3 months. You need a plan for the week. You need a plan for the day. You need a plan for the hour. All of that. I make lists constantly of what I have to do. And they're like daily, weekly, monthly, yearly. Right now, I can't look out more than about 6 months, because my life is too complicated and chaotic. But you need a vision of who you could be, what character you could have. 3 to 5 years out, you can't go much farther than that because life is too unpredictable, I think, to make vision that's longer term than that subject to, there's too much chance associated with it to spend a lot of time on. Maybe you can stretch it to 5 years, and in rare cases, you can have a 10-year goal, but it has to be pretty low resolution. But you want plans at all those levels of resolution. You want to write the things down. And because what are you going to do? You're going to stumble around and get what you need? You're going to stumble around and be useful to other people? And it's useful to be useful to other people, you know. They want to work with you then. They want to do things with you. They want to have you around. They trust you. They open up opportunities for you. And if you stumble around like you're blind, you're not going to get anywhere. And then you're going to suffer. And then you're going to be bitter. And then you're going to be cruel. So that's hell. That's a bad outcome.
Basically, what success meant to me was the opportunity to be useful, so that somebody else, might entertain me as a choice. But it also meant that I could use that event of a success to do something different than what was expected. I could go to another genre. I could go to another kind of role. I could go from the success of Witness to the opportunity of Mosquito Coast.
Right.
And people say, whoa, wait a minute, might not be the best career choice. And I thought, well, I don't have to make the best career choice. I have to make a choice that will challenge me and be interesting for me.
Your attitude determines your altitude. If you're a positive person, positive things happen to you. If you're a negative person, negative things are going to continue to happen for you. If you can put that in your scope this year, just change your attitude. Wake up and smile. How about just wake up and be grateful? It's just common sense, right? Next thing, especially after a show like today, life is really 10% what happens to you and 90% what you do about it. Look, everybody in this room, everybody watching, everybody got something they got to deal with. Get to dealing with it. Stop complaining about it. Complaining about it only makes it stay present. Do something about it. So life is 10% what happens to you is 90% what you do about it. And finally, don't give up when reaching your dream is difficult. Listen, if success were easy, you've heard it a million times. Everybody would be successful. It requires a grit and a toughness to be successful. But I got news for you. It's something that all of you have in you. Now, whatever you've been through, whatever that is, guess what? You're still here. You know what? That makes you a pretty tough person.
Proverbs 12:11. He who works his land shall have abundance. Whoever chases fantasies lacks wisdom. There's my life. He who works his land. What's my land, Tim Story? If you're in the 5th grade, work your 5th grade land. If you're a single mother, work your land. If you're overweight, work your land. Get in shape. He who works his land shall have. The word shall means certainly. It's fixed. It's determined. You shall have what? Abundance. Abundance is overflowing, more than enough. Wow. I am freakish at working my land. I am a working machine. I'm in the middle of 8 companies. I'm doing movies at a high level. I'm doing plays, rehab, recovery, which we'll talk about later. I'm in the middle of the restaurant business now. I'm working my land. So I'm up most mornings about 4:45, like you. I go to the gym. I'm working my land. So Vesantita Gonzalez, my mother, when she was so hard on me to do the dishes correctly, she was teaching me to work my land. So one thing you will always get from me is I will damn work my land. I work my land and it gave me abundance because it's the law of the harvest. And I'll work you through this. It'll take me literally 60 seconds.
Do it.
You got to plow the ground to plant the seed, to water the seed, to get the harvest.
Yes.
So your whole life
parable of the sower
is what's happened to you.
Right.
Okay. You've been plowing. Okay. Hard work. Planting by faith.
Yes.
Watering by faith.
Yes.
and payday's on its way.
Yes.
So payday hit you and your wife in this wild way. Why? Because it says it's going to happen.
That's right.
He who works his land shall have abundance, overflowing.
What are the things you think you're not doing well in your business?
I think a lot of these have started to shift with this book project. So I tend to be a person, this comes from two places. I like to be involved in things because I'm very collaborative.
Yeah.
So I love to see how things are turning out, and I love to like put my spin on them or at least have my input. But at the same time, that can be overbearing. I don't want folks to feel like they constantly have to run things past me. My team definitely knows I trust them. So the thing that I haven't done well in the past is delegating enough, letting go enough control. And particularly with this project, it's pushed us all so far outside of our collective comfort zones that it's been a joy to be like, you guys make the decision. Wow. You're amazing, you're intelligent, you're smart. Whatever you choose, I'm gonna be happy with.
Wow.
Yeah, that's been good.
It's hard to do to let go of that, right?
It's been great.
It's been good?
It's been really great. Like the fact that I'm this like awake and happy and like in it right now speaks to my kind of let go and let Jesus take the wheel. And in this case, Jesus manifests as my team.
It's amazing. Just let people make decisions and move on.
Yes.
Right? You do what you need to do and let everyone else do what they need to do.
Yeah, it's the only way to sanity.
The first thing to realize is don't believe everything you see in movies and read in books. There is no way both my wife, who worked for Steve directly, I worked for Steve, could do that for 10 years if there wasn't some amazing stuff that came out of it. It wasn't like we were getting whipped every day or anything. It had nothing to do with that. We were dedicated. We were passionate. He was passionate. He wanted the best for the company, for the products, for our customers. And when you're in that, there's a creative tension. And he emotionally would show that passion sometimes. Sometimes it was, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. You hear about the negatives, but you don't hear about all the positives and all the great things he did for you. It did for the individual as well as the company and all that stuff. So it was always a balance. And those bad days were not very often, but they did happen because typically, you might have made a mistake. Don't do that again. Or we weren't thinking about it right, or somebody was falling down on the job, or whatever the case may be. That's when it came out, is when someone didn't show respect for the mission they were on. When you didn't show respect for the rest of your teammates and for the thing we're trying to build, that's when there was a problem. Not when we fail, when we tried really hard. And if we showed we tried really hard, then that was just an option, just like the iPod phone was a failure. No one got killed over that. It was more just okay, we tried our best, we move on. We tried our best, we move on. It's when you didn't do what was right and you failed because you didn't put your heart and soul into it and you let the team down. That's when there was a problem. And that's what people need to realize. It was very balanced, and he was very much human, passionate, and he was very helpful and all kinds of stuff. But yes, he did have his bad days, but not usually without reason.
This is where trainers mess people up. I've had trainers who totally just want to prove that you could never do what they do. And they have you paying.
I know what you mean.
Just to say like, oh, this
You're not
poor
as good
guy.
as me. Right.
And they go to blast you. Like they want you, unless you're in pain and you feel like you're sick and you're throwing up, they're like, yeah, that's a workout now. Yeah, look at you. Yeah, you hurt, you can't walk, great.
Yeah.
And the whole point is, what I tell people is treat the gym like a spa. The first time you ever go, just go in there and walk around. Touch the weights, get a drink of water, walk around, and then leave. Right. And I mean, literally do that for like a week, 2 weeks, until you just get to the habit of getting in that door. Because what's going to happen is eventually you're going to start lifting because you're there.
Yeah.
And you're going to do something. And then you stop. Don't ever get to the point where you're like, I can't feel my arm. It doesn't work. I've been working. People they want my body and all this stuff, but I've been working out consistently since I was 14 years old.
Right.
And I'm 44. 30 years of hardcore 2-hour workout. 30 years.
Yeah.
So it doesn't happen overnight. Nope. You just have to enjoy the process.
Totally.
Learn to enjoy it, because I'm sure there was a point where you started to enjoy losing 113 pounds.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the only way you're going to keep going.
I've noticed something in my life. The people that are really good want to work with the best people they can find. Hopefully people that are even better than them. You know? I mean, that's my view of things, is if you work with people that aren't as good as you, then you become a country of midgets. If you work with people that are better than you, then you really grow.
My dad did a style of martial arts called Kyokushinkai. And I suppose as a little boy trying to get close to dad, I was like, well, if he's doing it, I'm going to join him. So my dad and I shared this incredible passion of martial arts and cars, right? So I kind of get started, with my father. Then he gets gunned down when I'm 13 years old. And I went through like a year of just nothing. I couldn't show up at the dojo. I didn't have it in me. And I did all the things we're talking about. The excuses. At the time, South Africa had a particularly high crime problem. And I was like, what's the point? Here's a first-degree black belt who gets attacked. He takes 9 bullets and he's dead anyway. Why am I going to this thing called the dojo, right? Again, excuse is valid. It really is. But there's no progress. So a year, nothing. And then I was like, I actually miss it. So I went back. It was interesting when I went back, it wasn't the same. I wasn't doing the kata to impress the senseis anymore. I was doing the kata because I wanted every single movement to be as close to flawless as I could get it. It changed my entire perspective. So, and one of the things that happened, you're going to love this. I'm literally getting chills thinking about it. One of the things that happened is time just expanded. So, because we have a very finite construct of time, I'm going to be at the dojo for an hour. But what happened was that hour felt like 5 hours, and sometimes 30 minutes felt like 5. All of a sudden, this fixed construct of time, it started to change because my relationship with what I was doing changed. So it wasn't just a punch. It wasn't just the kata. I wasn't just showing up for the emotion. I was embedded in every single part of the process. I was looking for growth, for progress, right? I have to tell you, that changed my entire life. So anytime I find myself stuck now, I recognize that often the reason I'm stuck is because I'm focusing on the output and I'm not focusing on my input, right? So output, I've got to raise 100 million rand for my business. Output, I've got to get 300% growth for, in customers. Output, I've got to get 25. Yeah, that's all output. But what you got to focus on is input. What are the things I've got to do, and how do I do those things intentionally, deliberately, and try to get better every single time? Every meeting, every impact conversation with one of my staff members, every engagement with a client or a potential client, every single one of those things. How do I focus on that moment? Because actually the output is a sum total of how those things come about. So when you are at the dojo and you are being graded and you are going through the process of trying to attain your black belt or your brown belt, that's what everybody sees as the output. But what actually went in was that malleable construct of time where you're trying to perfect every single movement.
Imagination is more powerful than knowledge when dealing with your own mind and the mind of others. If I said to any of you, come and stand on this chair, who would come and stand on this chair? I'll give you $100 to stand on this chair. Sure. If I said, well, now the chair is on top of that spire on the highest building in Tallinn, who's going to climb up and stand on it for $100? Who would do that? Some people would, because they've got a good imagination. They go, if I can stand on it there, I can stand. And most people go, no, I could fall. If we had a little tiny plank up here, you can walk the plank when it's on the floor. Put the plank between 2 high-rise buildings. Who's going to walk it? Not many people, because the imagination that you could fall and kill yourself is way more powerful than the knowledge that I did this on the ground. It's wide enough. Fear of flying. Knowledge says it's actually the safest place in the world. The most dangerous part of a flight is actually the drive to the airport. That's way more dangerous than being in the plane. Do you think the imagination cares? We'll go, I'm in a flying coffin. I'm hurtling through the air, and that guy looks like he's come straight out of ISIS, and he's in the bar. I think he's going to blow up the plane. And then you feel terrible. The other person's going, I'm watching a movie. I've always wanted to watch The Shape of Water. This is so great. Here's my time again to do nothing. So whatever you imagine will defeat logic will defeat knowledge. And when dealing with children, people do logical, why are you so bad? Why can't you get it? What's going on? Why are you so naughty? And that doesn't work. I never say to kids, why are you bad? I go, what happened to you?
The only thing I can control in my life are the things that I'm willing to take responsibility for. These gladiators that came here thousands of years ago and maybe lost their lives, if they took responsibility for the match, full responsibility, and I might be taking this too far right now, I don't know. I don't know what it was like to be a gladiator in 720, 740 AD, okay? I can't even imagine fighting in front of 50,000 people with lions possibly coming out to eat me, okay? But I know this, you really gotta get this point carried away. You gotta get it like in your head. You're an executive, you're a business owner, you're a manager. You're trying to hire people. You're trying to hire people and you're like, oh, the people are bad. Oh, everybody's terrible, everybody's bad. I can't find good people. Dude, take responsibility. We all have something to do with what's going on around us. You and I authorize others to drop the bomb. Look, I've been robbed twice in my life. 23 years old, I was almost killed. Guy came in my house, put a 45 caliber pistol in my face, hit me right here, then put 70 stitches in my head and face, robbed me. In New Orleans, Louisiana, I was robbed at a younger age. I caused both of those. I was the victim in both situations. On the police report, victim robbed by criminals. Truth is, I wasn't a victim. I created both of those. Wrong place, wrong time, wrong people. I had something to do with that. Everything that happens to you is because of you. Quit passing it off, right? It's gonna rain on me right now while I'm shooting this. Dude, that's my fault. I could have shot this thing yesterday when it was sunshine. Watch and read high performance people and you will see that they always take responsibility. When their life goes to garbage, it's when they quit taking responsibility. The greats in the world keep track of everything. When they're in the game, when they're the gladiator, when they're the ball player, when they're the executive of a big company, they're statistizing everything, okay? How many outbound, how many inbound, what's our closing ratio, what's our right ratio? Everything is measured. Measure your actions and measure your results. Those that don't and won't are irresponsible and they will cause you problems. I remember as a young salesperson, I was keeping a log, not on what I sold, but on what I said to people. I kept everything. How many people I talked to, how many people I waited on, how many people I wrote up, how many people I negotiated with, how many people I closed, how many people I talked to on the phone, and also what they said and what I said, what worked and what didn't work. I was taking responsibility. This is the only way you can take responsibility, by the way. You can't just say, oh, I'm responsible. You gotta do something to follow up the responsibility. It's how I handle and learned and became a professional salesperson. I handle the future by being responsible for the present. You go in that gladiator. You go in there as a gladiator in that Coliseum, okay? And you don't figure out how you lost that last fight, you're gonna die in the next one. Take responsibility. Even if the other guy cheated, he surprised you, he shocked you, he pulled out some other weapon you didn't know about. Be prepared for the future by taking responsibility for the present. So be responsible, be the cause, not the effect. Be responsible. Even when you're not responsible, be responsible. Bad things happen to good people. Good things, by the way, happen to good people. And blame no one, be responsible. And remember this, you wanna be great, you wanna be super successful, take responsibility for everything, even the things that you could have no responsibility for.
The tax department, which every country has taxes, they wanna know what kind of income do you work for. So when you say to someone your age or a child to the parent to the child, they say, let's go to school, get a job, they're working for this type of income. Earned income, as you can see from this diagram here, this is earned income here. And the first thing you pay is the highest taxes, because you worked for money.
Yes.
The government doesn't want you working for money. Yeah. They punish you for that. They want you to hire employees or invest. Okay, so earned income is what they work for. The second is portfolio income. It's also called capital gains. So if I buy a house for, let's say, $100,000, I sell it for $200,000, the $100,000 is capital gains. If I buy a stock for $10 and sell it for $20, the $10 is the capital gains. This is the second highest taxed. So the tax breaks that President Trump is working on today is primarily for these guys here. So they're doctors, lawyers, highly educated people, and they have stocks. Most of these guys don't have stocks of the working class. They have a 401k, but they don't get the break. But these guys, if you're active in stocks and that kind of stuff, or flipping houses, you get a break. But what the really rich work for is passive income. And passive income, for me, I have a business, whether I work or not, money comes in. And you've seen me, I'm not here, am I?
No, never.
Never. I've earned the right not to be here. Real estate, I have every year, my wife and I, Kim, we add more real estate. Also, we have commodity income from oil wells and things like this. Even the stock price of oil doesn't go up and down and all this, we still get this. But this is another type of income. This here, I won't get into, is called phantom income. It's taxes I don't pay, so this is a little bit beyond most people's minds. But let's say my tax bill is $100,000. By doing what the government wants here, the government may give me a $50,000 tax break. That means $50,000 in taxes I don't have to pay.
Wow.
So the $50,000, it didn't go to the government, it went back up here. So that's what financial education does. It teaches you about the financial statement, which is not taught in school. Again, they teach you FICO scores, which is really FIDO scores.
Exactly.
What's your total, little doggy?
Exactly.
Okay. And then for you, at your age now, you want to know this. This is what they're teaching you to work for now. Ironically, when you save money and you have a 401k, this is the kind of income. So savings and 401ks are taxed the highest types of income. To me, it's stupid, but if you don't know any better, it's the saving money in, what do you call that, 401ks is good. Okay. In Canada, it's called RRSP. In Australia, it's called the superannuation. But this is what most people have, because they went to school, they got a job. And then this is what the rich really have. It's passive. And it's because I'm an active investor. I don't buy this because this is passive investors. I am active and I'm professional in all of these areas. So I work for passive income, which means I'm not here. The check comes in, the checks come in every year, and you've seen Kim and I, and your mother now, she's working on here. And so your mother's income keeps going up, your father's income keeps going up, and they don't have a job.
One time, as you know, I went to Indiana, and in Dallas in the mid-90s, when we had a good basketball team, we literally would, when we wanted to listen to our big games like Indiana, Purdue, go Hoosiers, we would call somebody in Bloomington who would put a radio next to a speakerphone and dial us, and we'd sit on the other side listening over a speakerphone, drinking our beer and whooping it up or doing whatever. And the internet was just starting to happen, and now I'm a tech geek and I'm like into all of it. And we're like, there's got to be a better way to do this. And so one of my buddies from Indiana, Todd Wagner, was like, look, we've been thinking about this. And I'm like, no, I'll figure it out. I'm a networking guy now. And so we looked for ways to stream Indiana basketball. We called it netcasting back then, over the brand new internet. And so I went out and bought a Packard Bell 90 megahertz computer and an ISDN line and downloaded all this software. And I said, you know what, I'm going to figure it out. And lo and behold, by, early 1995, we had figured out a way to, we took these 8-hour VCRs and connected it to a local radio station, record them, we'd bring them back, go through this process called encoding, and put it up on this website we called AudioNet. And then I'd go to any online forum, AOL, Prodigy, CompuServe, UUNet, whatever it was, or Usenet, and if you're interested in Dallas sports at all, because we hadn't gotten to Indiana yet, if you're interested in Dallas sports, go to this website, AudioNet. And back then, you had a dial-up modem, you had to download this software called TCP/IP, and you had to have software from your internet provider, which meant that so few people knew how to use it, we had no idea if it would work or not. But all of a sudden, AudioNet went from 10 people a day to 100 people to 1,000 people a day. And as we added radio stations, they're getting calls from all over the world from people who are listening to their shows on demand, not even live. And then we worked with a company that put together live software, a company called Zing, and we made it live, and then everything changed. And that's really when streaming was born, and we just grew that. And then in 1998, we got into video, changed the name to broadcast.com, went public, and it was the biggest IPO in the history of the stock market at the time. And then we sold it to Yahoo.
What I find interesting about you, the way you conduct your business, is that when stuff doesn't work out, you apologize. You go out and say, I made a mistake and all that. What is that, the first time you had to go out there and say, sorry, this was wrong? And I remember the rate increase, right? And then you were like, well, forget about it. Like, what was that experience like for you as a boss when you're like, I have to go and own this?
Going through marriage counseling 20 years ago was really how I moved to become a better manager and leader.
Really?
And this marriage counselor was able to get me to see that I was often lying to myself and to my wife, saying, oh, family's the most important thing, and I'd stay at work all night. Yeah. And that the value of honesty is that people can take honesty, even if it's not necessarily what they want to hear, if it's really sincere.
I'm a big believer in the liberal arts education. I think it's overrated, or it's underrated. I mean, in that the computer science stuff is overrated. It's great, technical skills are amazing, but what has happened, as I referred to earlier, is all the storytellers are kind of gone, and the actual understanding of our users is gone. We've lost all that sensitivity, and yet I feel like that sensitivity comes first from really knowing yourself. So I encourage people to take classes, not just in art and music, but in death and dying and philosophy and theology, these things that you'll never make money on directly. But I think one of the most important things you can do is be interesting. Like, I only really want to work with people who've not only had those crappy jobs I talked about, but are also interesting. They have stories, there's some meat to them, there's some flesh, there's something really compelling. That's who you want to be with if you're going to spend night and day building something together. That's who you want to travel with, these people with these perspectives and these stories. And so, and interestingness is not something that I think you're born with. I think it's achieved by vulnerability, by adventure, by all these things. And so I really emphasize interestingness. I think you can get it from studying, from reading, from putting yourself in uncomfortable positions. Maybe more Americans should just hang out naked in saunas. That could make them more interesting. But traveling abroad, going to Ethiopia and helping dig wells, that kind of stuff I think builds a much more impressive character. So Stuart Butterfield, who runs Slack, obviously one of the most successful investments in our portfolio, an amazing company. Stuart is a liberal arts major. That dude is fucking fascinating. Like, hanging out with that guy and talking about anything beyond Slack is amazing. He's Canadian and yet he's got great insights into US politics. But you just follow his snaps on Snapchat. The guy he eats well, he's checking out art, he knows music really well. He's a really interesting guy. So he becomes a magnet for talent. You want to be around Stuart. He enriches your soul. And if you look at the team of people he's recruited, superstars like April Underwood, for instance, like, he's really recruited an incredibly deep bench of people because they want to have authentic and multi-dimensional relationships with him. And I think it comes through in the product.
Listen to me very closely. A lot of you could be millionaires, but because you're not disciplined, he pulls on a couple. Some of you because you're not sexually disciplined, you've had people take stuff from you and you've been in places and relate. I just saw 2 young women that lost their lives that was on some dating thing and went to some man. I was just like, yo, where they do that at? Where do you just trust somebody online that you don't even know? What was it about you that you had such a low self-esteem, and then it was twins, it was sisters, that you just gonna go to some man's house you don't even know? Come on. Then another young lady just went to jail. Her man told her he killed somebody and she took a saw and saw. I'm like, boo, you about to go to jail? I'm like, wow, is it that love that deep these days? People buying stuff. I'm like, well, you ain't grateful for what God, you got to get the extra hookups? I ain't mad at you, but if you do that, you understand what you attracting. And then you mad when you ain't attracting a successful man of character and integrity and God, but you're not putting that out. Okay, I'm sorry. All right. Listen to me very closely. Somebody, your zero is going to go to the next level when you can learn to say no. I was just at a function. My man was like, E, you did a phenomenal job, bruh. We doing happy hour at 3:30. I said, my plane leave at 3:50. He said, you're not going to stay for happy hour? I said, bruh, I'm not here for no happy hour. We don't know each other like that. Happy hour? I came to speak. I didn't come to build no relationship with you. I didn't come to drink with you. Drink? Bro, I don't even drink. And if I drank, I would drink at home. I wouldn't drink in front of you and get loose like that and start talking crazy. You don't need to know me like that. You need to know me as the #1 motivational speaker in the world. Flawless. I'm not, but that's what you need to know me as. You don't even need to get close enough to me to know my faults. This is a business transaction. You're going doing business with people drinking like y'all. What you being social for? You don't have no discipline. Drink when you get home. You just see some free wine. You see some free alcohol. Drink when you get home. This is business. Boundaries. There are boundaries. My man like, yo, why you gotta go? Because I'm married. I got a wife. I'm going home. We finished. We ain't got no more business to do. You told me you wanted a 2-hour presentation. I did it. I'm going home. But E, this is a resort. And I'm going home. Why? Because I can't get in trouble at home. I can't get in trouble at the crib. I can get in trouble at this resort. It's a lot of temptation at this resort. So I'm going home.
Every year around February, March, I say the same thing to myself and I set myself the same goal. Let's just stop there, right? And take a look at what I just said, because there's a real clue in that first sentence. Why does this goal pop up in March? The answer, quite an obvious one, because summer is on the horizon. And you've got to ask yourself again, you've got to criticize yourself there and say, well, why does summer matter? Well, because, summertime is a time where we wear less clothes, we're a little bit more vulnerable, our bodies are on show more. And then you've got to ask yourself, okay, so why is that relevant? Well, it speaks to the nature of my motivation. My motivation wasn't to work out. It wasn't to be healthy because I want long-term health benefits or to feel great about myself. As embarrassing as this is to admit, my motivation was so clearly to look good for summer. Let's just break that down a second. Look good for summer. Looking good as a goal is measured by just one thing, the public's opinion of me, ladies' opinion of me. That's what we call an extrinsic external goal. Success of that goal will be achieved when the public think I look good. The next part of that sentence, right, was for summer. The next part of my goal was for summer, which is a measurable time frame. So once summer is over, the job is done. So the motivation behind that goal was both extrinsic and held within a time frame. So when I dropped that social media pic of me topless in Mykonos or wherever I went this summer, Mykonos and Costa Rica, looking good during summer, and when I got the compliments, the likes, the followers, the praise, and when summer passed, unsurprisingly, so did my motivation. Job done. My goal, my reason, my why was attached to summer and also public opinion, and both had been fulfilled. So as I pulled into October and I tried to find the motivation to go to the gym, it was gone. Going to the gym suddenly felt so pointless to me, and I had no idea why. It just did. Even when I managed to get to the gym, my workout was quite honestly pathetic. It was short. It was like 25, 30 minutes of me predominantly texting. And I didn't know why. I just thought I wasn't feeling great. Like a boat that had suddenly been unanchored, I was now just drifting unconsciously without intention or real motivation or without conscious realization into the winter months, into bad habits, into Fat Steve. And the minute I realized this year, I was able to completely reset and sort of re-anchor my motivation into things that were intrinsically internally motivating and without timeframes. I set myself the goal of going to the gym just because it makes me feel great.
This particular investment, we bought a building for $17 million in Houston, and it was a subsidiary of Boeing, the tenant that occupied the building, and they handle all the communication with the Discovery shuttle. And I'm like, they spent $20 million, fiber optics, so much infrastructure they put in the building, they're not gonna go anywhere. That's what the broker was telling me, right? So we bought the building that had 5-year lease with 3 5-year option, and the cap rate was like 8.5. So we put $5 million down, and our return was like 18 to 20% cash on cash. With a Boeing, as your credit tenant, it was like, how can you go wrong? And what are the chances of NASA not giving him the contract, renewing their contract? It's a government contract because they're the main, vendor for NASA. And guess what happened? SpaceX, came by, Elon Musk, and he got awarded the contract. 3 years after I bought it, I got a FedEx letter, and from our tenant, USA, which was the name of the tenant. They said, oh, we didn't get the contract from NASA renewed. We're going to be moving out of the building. And my heart just dropped. I'm like, whoa, I just got punched in the gut.
Oh my God.
And that's all or none. It was none at that point. And sadly, I had some partners in there. I was 50% partner. I put 2.5 million of my own money. Then I had like 18, 19 other family friends that put money in there, which one of them,
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing for me to swallow. I didn't care so much about my money, to be honest with you. I felt more pressure and guilt for all these other 18 because, I can always make the money back, but some of these people, like my own sister, she borrowed money on her home, 500 grand, and she put in there. So all our money was, gone. They got the distribution for a couple of years, so they got some of that money back. But people always look at their equity they put in.
Oh, yeah.
They don't care. You could give them money for 10 years distribution. If they put $1 million, they want $1 million back after 10 years. Doesn't matter,
If you want 7 more rich people habits, check out the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
Focus on what's going on right now in your life and how bad things are. That has all your attention. Whatever has your attention happens. So if your attention is there in a fear area, it's going to continue that way.